Hello, everybody. This is Paul Chek. Welcome to 2024. Today, I will share my thoughts for beginning the new year. The title of my podcast today is 2024 Life and Death. So, I'm going to share some insights on the life and death process that I think are really important for us all to be aware of at this time in the evolution of humanity. Hopefully, I will share some things that inspire you and wake you up to new possibilities and opportunities and ways to manage yourself coming into the year to set yourself up for the year so that you have a safe and productive and healthy and happy year. This year is also the 40th anniversary of my work in the field of holistic health. And it is also the 20th anniversary of my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. It was revised a few years ago and we put out a second edition, but I can proudly say there's not a single thing in this book that's outdated. It's as effective and useful now as it's ever been. We've sold well over 200,000 copies of it now, self-published, and it's the only book in the world that will let you identify a unique diet, exercise, and lifestyle program based on your individual needs due to the series of questionnaires that are weighted by scores, which then tells you where your body's under the most stress and directs you to the chapters that show you how to lower your stress. So you can get this book from the Chek Institute, CHEKinstitute.com, or you can get it on Amazon. And I have a super exciting announcement to make for you. I've been waiting for years. We finally got it done. We now have How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy online. So for those of you that have got the book and want a little more support, that's the program for you. This is our public access program to teach you what's important and how to care for your body and have a healthy lifestyle and learn all the things that you need to learn that pretty much nobody ever teaches you. It's bioharmonizing, which is the ultimate solution. Biohacking is hacking, and it's always taking shortcuts. And if you don't get the important things done that I teach in How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy and the kind of things I'll share in this podcast, then you'll be hacking away until you're dead. You can get access to How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy online by going to chek.group/L4D, capital L number 4, capital D, dash EMBH. That's chek.group/L4D dash EMBH. Check it out. Your whole family will be a lot better off. I've had so many letters sent to me from around the world from families, people getting off medical drugs, having diseases magically clear up and go away, back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, you name it. It's happened. If you just follow the plan, it works because it's built on the foundation principles by which the human body and mind work. I also show you how the mind affects the body in there. I teach you how to work to cultivate life force energy using very simple movements that anybody can do. I give you a whole section on dieting, on how to assess the flexibility of your body. I give you a 4-day rotation diet, which is excellent for identifying food intolerances, food allergies, and resting your immune system and increasing nutrient variety in your diet, and a lot of other very important things. So that's my special announcement. My 40th year as a therapist, my 20-year anniversary for How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, and the launch of How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy online. Today I'm going to share quite a number of excellent and important books for all of you. I will bring them up as I go. I think there's a saying that's been going around for a while now. I don't know where it came from, but it's damn good. Never trust a man whose television is bigger than his bookshelf. And I think there's something to reading a book, holding a book, and engaging the material that you just don't get looking at screens. So I encourage all of you that are really interested in these topics and genuinely want to be healthy, or who are health educators, personal trainers, strength coaches, doctors, therapists of all types, to read the books that I share, because they're very, very important books. Of course, start with How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, because I synthesized hundreds of books into there and a lot of life experience. So with that said, let's sort of begin our journey. Like I said, the theme of my 2024 podcast is life and death. To begin with, I'm going to give you my numerological breakdown for the year, which I've done now for several years running on my podcast. And so for those of you that don't understand numerology, it was developed by Pythagoras a long time ago. Numerology is the science of the subjective aspect of numbers. We're very left brain in our culture. We only tend to think about the objective, how much money is in your bank account, X times or divided by something equals. Those are objective approaches to number, but there's an entire science of the subjective aspect of number. Ibrahim Karim's science biogeometry is all about quality. It's the science of quality, which relates to the qualitative aspects of number. If you want to get a sense of the subjective qualities of number, you just say, well, for example, what's the difference between having one piece of pie and somebody offering you 4? There's an immediate feeling involved with that. It could be, oh my God, I can't eat that much, or that's going to make me fat, or holy hallelujah, this is great. There will be a different subjective or feeling quality to that experience. When we're looking at numerology, which has been studied for a very, very long time, we're looking at what feelings and events and the types of things happen in given years, based on the reduction of the date, such as if you take the year that we're in now, 2024, 2 plus 0 is 2, plus 2 is 4, plus 4 is 8, so that is the master number. So our number for the year is 8. Last year was 7. The archetype for last year was the Chariot in Tarot, which was all about balance and getting things done and not being distracted. This year, the Tarot archetype is the archetype Strength. It shows in the Rider-Waite deck a picture of a woman taming a lion with love, and she's holding its mouth open to show, look, I can get the lion to do anything I want out of love. And the point of that image is, if you try to force a lion to do anything, you're going to get eaten. You'll probably end up badly hurt or dead, most likely dead. But the archetype of Strength is saying that listening to our soul, the woman represents our soul, our inner guide, our true self, our highest self. And the ego is represented also as the lion. In alchemy, the lion is a classic symbol of the ego. So the archetype for this year is suggesting through tarot that in order to have a good year, we need to really be conscious that we're not making decisions from our programming, but going within ourselves, asking what would love do now, and asking questions like, if everybody did what I'm about to do, would the world be a better place? And taking time, as I will share in the Dr. Quiet section, for spending time in and with yourself for self-reflection. The 8 in my system of alchemy relates to self-reflection, and I'll also show you why that is numerologically. If you look at the metaphysics of the number 8 from a numerological perspective, remember, 8 is 2 circles beautifully stacked on top of each other, or you could say it's a 0 with a twist. And it also in numerology is associated with the infinity symbol, because the 8 sideways is the infinity symbol. In metaphysical aspects of numerology, the top circle represents the spiritual dimension, so the invisible realm that is actually creating and influencing the physical realm. So we have the spiritual, and then we have the earthly below, which is also the physical. So the top sphere of the 8 is the spiritual dimension, and the bottom sphere is the earthly dimension. And by the way, while I'm thinking about it, if you're listening to this podcast on a listening device, it's filmed and you can see all my diagrams on the board and follow me. If you want to watch the video, just look in the show notes for the link to the video version of it. And so what we have here is a year in which our spiritual reality brings us into a tangible, visceral awareness of what we've created and are creating in the physical world that we live in. And that's not only the body we live in, but our environment, both our immediate environment and the world as a collective environment. And there's a lot that we need to think about in that regard. This is a year where we've really got to get inside of ourselves, get ourselves healthy, and get ready to participate. And not get ready to, but to participate. When you're in your body and you're here listening to me, you're in the physical realm, the lower half of the 8. But when we die, we go back. We cross the center point of the 8. And where we're here and our inner orientation is focused outward to the things around us, the people, places, and things around us, when we die, our orientation turns the other direction. So now we live basically inside of our mind, our beliefs, and in the spiritual dimension. So life and death, as I'll show you, are always in a reciprocal relationship with each other. One creates the other. Some other significance is that this metaphysical description of the 8 is a perfect match for the alchemical, sometimes called the Hermetic principle of as above, so below. As above represents your mind and the power of your mind to create. Below represents the body and the physical reality around you. And the world has a beautiful tendency to mirror our mind. Two people in the same situation, same restaurant, same party, same classroom, eating the same food can have a very different experience because their mental orientation to what they're doing is very, very different. So there you see that however you perceive the experience you're having produces the sense of the experience or the reality that you're perceiving. And this is why it is often said perception equals reality. One of my greatest teachers, who was a powerful shaman, a woman with probably 5 master's degrees, Rowena Petty Kreider, a masterful artist, a mathematician, a scientist, a builder, and really like a mind-boggling human being. She has a book on numerology, and it shares some key things. She says the number 8 resonates with the ordinary mind, and it is the archetype of the trickster. Now, the ordinary mind is highly susceptible to the trickster. I think the last few years has taught us that, and the trickster has killed a lot of people. So ordinary minds and tricksters don't do well together. The trickster does well, but the ordinary mind does not do well. People that cannot think for themselves and think critically and ask intelligent questions and not make decisions till they have sound information from sound scientists and leaders that are trusted and can demonstrate the evidence of their philosophy by the life they lead. If you don't have those types of people to guide you, then you should not make a decision, or you will get tricked. In fact, I have a book I wanted to share with you since we're talking about that. It's called How Industry Manipulates Science and Gambles with Your Future. Trust Us, We're Experts by Sheldon Rampton and John Stauber, authors of Toxic Sludge is Good for You, which I also have in my library. So The main title is Trust Us, We're Experts, and it's all about how science is used to trick you. Something that's been going on more now than ever. We have all sorts of, trickster archetypes involved with greenhouse gases, involved with carbon accumulation, involved with medical procedures, involved with money, involved with digital IDs, involved with governments, involved with the internet, involved with power, involved with the food supply, and the list is very long. There's tricksters everywhere, and being an ordinary mind is dangerous, very dangerous, okay? She says 8 gives birth to new social forms through individual empowerment and cooperation. So that's where we're at right now. And that's what this podcast is ultimately all about. We must empower ourselves as an individual, because any group, society, nation, or culture is a collection of individuals. And we cannot give what we don't have. We can't lead by example unless we are being an example. We cannot love more for others than we can love ourselves. We can't exemplify to our children what we don't embody. And we need to be very concerned about the children. And I have a lot to say about that. And one of the groups that I think all of you that are parents should get to know about is Zen Honeycutt's organization called Moms Across America. We're going to be talking about toxins in food. She had a show with Del Bigtree on his show, The High Wire, which you can see at thehighwire.com, called Deadly Toxins Found in Fast Food. The results will shock you. And what I was very sad to hear is that the grand majority of schools now contract out their lunch programs to fast food companies like McDonald's and those class of people. And when you watch that show and see what on earth they found going into school lunch programs, it'll shock the hell out of you. And it's no wonder we've got the problems that we do with people's health, and children's health is at the all-time low. I'm going to save some of this for when we get to the food discussion. I have a lot more books to share with you. Again, 8 gives birth to new social forms through individual empowerment and cooperation. So we've got to empower ourselves as individuals. And as I'll share later, we must get clear on what our dream is for ourselves, for our city, for our state, for our individual nations, and for the world. All of that depends on your personal agency, your ability to participate, lead by example, and to be clear on what values are life-sustaining, as I will show. 8 also is a number of good luck and second beginnings on a new level. So there is a possibility in an 8 year for good luck and second beginnings on a new level. I think the only way we can really make that happen as a national issue in the United States is to get Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as president, RFK. I don't see any other candidate that I trust. I would never leave my children with anyone that's running for president other than RFK. I'll just state it that simply. Would you leave your children with Donald Trump? I get very, very confused as to why so many people are in love with Donald Trump. I understand it from an archetypal perspective. Biden is a fossil, and fossils aren't what you run a country with. And I don't trust any other candidates. So having spent plenty of time listening to RFK and knowing what we're facing in the year that we're coming into right now, and knowing the amount of dirty, nasty, rotten stuff going on at every level of government and corporate America, I don't think there's anybody better than a criminal or trial lawyer that spent his years and years working for the environment and knows the ins and outs of corporate America and government politics and has the family history to really understand this stuff and has a sound set of morals and ethics that guide him. So that's my 2 cents. I'm not asking you to agree with me. I'm just sharing my 2 cents. And I'm somebody that spends quite a long time looking into things before I make a decision. Hi, everybody. I sure hope you're enjoying the podcast. You know, a couple of months ago, Organifi sent me a couple of bags of their new Shilajit gummies to sample, and I was blown away with how great they taste and how much my body loved them. Having used Shilajit paste for many years, I've never been a big fan of the taste of it, but when I tried Organifi's new Shilajit gummies, I was truly impressed. The texture and consistency of the gummies is excellent, and they have just enough natural sweetness to let me feel like I'm getting a lovely, healthy treat for both my mind and my body. Shilajit is a unique, potent mineral paste from the Himalayan mountains. It contains an abundance of trace minerals, antioxidants, organic acids, and nutrient-transporting compounds. It's been known throughout history to help boost vitality and strength. Just pop a couple gummies and chew, or suck on them slowly for a steady release of the delicious, earthly, but slightly sweet natural flavor. Your taste buds will enjoy the delicious treat while your body soaks up the massive amounts of feel-good nutrition. Rich in fulvic acid, humic acid, vitamins, enzymes, bioflavonoids, antioxidants, metabolites, and over 40 trace minerals, Shilajit gummies can help support energy production, support performance and recovery, support healthy muscles, promote collagen synthesis, support healthy hormone levels, increase cellular energy, decrease fatigue, and promote heart health. I absolutely love Organifi's Shilajit gummies and went through 2 bags in no time because my body craved them so much. I reached out to Organifi to get more right away, and I bet you will too. To get your 20% off for Living 4D listeners on your Shilajit gummies, go to Organifi, Organifi.com/CHEK20. On checkout, use the promo code capital C, capital H, capital E, capital K, 20. That's Chek 20 on checkout to get your 20% discount on your awesome Shilajit gummies. I honestly love these things. I know you're going to be just amazed with how great they taste and how good they feel. Dusty Bunker says that 8 is the number of manifestation as a result of energized thought. So how do we energize our thought? We get clear on what our dream is, what our goals are, and what our objectives are for the year. What is your dream? What is it that you want to create for yourself, for your friends, for your family, for your society, and for your country, and for the world? Energized thought means you have to have an emotional connection to it, and you've got to be healthy and vital enough to do something about it. So through energized thought, we will be able to manifest. Dusty Bunker says, dream bigger. I say that to people a lot because most people's dreams are just to get by. And remember, the average person is highly susceptible to tricksters. If you have a big enough dream, you don't need a crisis. And I think we all need a dream. The country needs a dream. Every country needs a dream. But our dreams need to harmonize with each other because we have global forces trying to literally imprison us and take our freedoms away and take our life away. And these very companies that are part of this global network, the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, are inclusive of the very companies and corporations that have destroyed this planet. So it always blows my mind how they say they are going to make things better and the Green Revolution, which is all just a bunch of bullshit, because they're the very companies that have promoted this bogus science and traumatized and destroyed the environment and are flying carbon-consuming jet aircraft everywhere they go and have no sense of what the reality of a normal human being's life is. And I could go on for hours about this. I've listened to my podcast with James Tunney to really get a good look at what they're trying to do, and unfortunately are doing all too well and are willing to sacrifice millions of lives to do it. These guys start wars for fun. They just make tons and tons of money off wars and off famines and droughts and power outages and diseases and illnesses. And that's one of the reasons I wanted you to read this book, Trust Us, We're Experts, because it shows you a beautiful look at how they play with science and manipulate you. And if you haven't read the book or listened to the audio, Science Set Free by Rupert Sheldrake, it is a very, very honest review of the way science can be very misleading. And I'm not against science, I'm just against the abuse of science. And Rupert Sheldrake is a world-recognized, highly respected and celebrated scientist writing this book. Now, I wanted to talk about the 8 with regard to a cycle of development, or how a project runs or a process runs. So if you look at a cycle of development, if you just draw like a mountain, like an upside down V, you begin your process. So let's call it a marathon run, just so we have something to work with. The instant you start running, you're at number 1. Halfway through the marathon, 13.1 miles, you'd be at the peak. And that's where most people meet a real challenge, and often will start doubting that they can even make it through the race. So when you look at Hegel's philosophy of how a process runs, you have a thesis, an idea, I'm going to run this marathon. Then you run into the antithesis, all the challenges that you're going to have to face to finish the marathon, the blisters, the thirst, the fatigue, the weather, etc. And then you begin your march toward the finish line. The problem is if you quit at the halfway point, you can either walk back or walk to the finish. It's the same amount of work. But then you progress toward the completion. So when you cross the finish of the marathon, you would be at a 9 cycle, number 9 in the phase. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 halfway point, thesis, 1, 2, 3, 4, antithesis, 5, and then synthesis occurs as you progress from 5 to 9. We're at an 8 year, which means we're almost at the end of a cycle. And remember, I did a podcast on the 4th turning with Ben Stewart, which is all about the cycles that we keep going through historically, and what happens in the 4th turning is typically when wars break out and major crisis and major change happens. So the 4th turning is probably the cycle that we should focus on, and this would suggest that we're at an 8. 9 would bring it to an end. So that would be 2025. 2026 would begin some kind of a new cycle. And then by the time we get to 2030, we're meeting another crisis point or challenge point that we're going to have to deal with, which just happens to be the year the globalists plan to have you in prison, have you locked down and turned into sexless robots and all that other crazy shit they're up to. Fortunately, people like RFK and Senator Ron Paul and others I've heard interviews with are getting hip to it. I've heard the United States government talking about defunding the World Health Organization, which is really just largely Bill Gates's little vehicle for controlling your life and ripping you off. If you haven't read the book, it's by Vandana Shiva. It's something like Oneness versus the 1%. She does the most amazing job of dissecting Bill Gates so everybody can see the truth of Mr. Gates. And I think you all need to get very wise if you haven't already. And we all need to be aware, because there's one of your major tricksters that takes control of the average mind. And remember, the 8 year correlates to the trickster and the average mind, which means we need to be very, very careful of tricksters. And it's not only an election year in the United States, it's an election year in many countries around the world, quite interestingly. So we've all got to get very, very wise. And tricksters steal elections too. So there's a lot about that out there, which is tons you could look into. So in essence, we have a lot of opportunity, but we have to remember that we're not only an individual, we're part of a collective, be it a family, be it a city, a society, a culture, a religion. And so here in the 8, we have the as above, so below reality confronting us face to face right now in this year 2024. So it's not a time to be a sleepyhead, not a good time to be drugged out, not a good time to not take care of yourself, not a good time to not know where food and water is and have emergency supplies. It's not a good time to be passive about where your money is and what quality of bank you use and what kind of stability they have and related things that you should be talking to about people that have expertise in money. It's not a good time to be eating processed food from food factories that have a tendency to load your food up with poisons, as I will give you lots of resources on. And Zen Honeycutt, in her interview with Del Bigtree, will show you some absolutely shocking information that is based on laboratory tests. And it'll explain a lot of why we have so many problems with children. In fact, she states in there that approximately 65% of children now have chronic health conditions and diseases, which are usually those that happen to elderly people. We've got the sickest youth in the history of the world, and the United States has the most expensive and one of the very worst medical systems in the world. And so there's a good reason to pay attention to what I'm saying and why I encourage all of you to go and do my How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy online training and read my book and apply it. Because when you do that, you're taking good care of yourself, which requires you to put money into the hands of the people that are taking care of the planet. Because you can't make good food if you're not taking care of the earth and the water. So that's sort of the numerological approach to the year. And again, as above, so below. Learn to manage your mind, or you might find yourself getting visits from the pain teacher. And as I'll share later, we have to look at those 4 doctors very carefully. I've talked about these 4 doctors multiple times, but as a therapist with 40 years of experience, I found that I have to repeat things over and over and over and over and over again. In fact, it's always amazed me. I've started many lectures all over the world and said right at the beginning of the lecture with doctors, acupuncturists, massage therapists, chiropractors, you name it, how many of you aren't happy at what you're doing but keep doing it anyhow? And a lot of hands go up. How many of you know that you're eating stuff that bothers your body, you're overweight or underweight, but you keep doing it anyhow? Almost every hand in the room goes up. How many of you are not getting enough sleep and you know it, but you keep doing it anyhow? Almost every hand in the room goes up. How many of you are over-exercising or under-exercising and you know it, but keep doing it anyhow? Almost every hand goes up in the room. Guess what? That's the 8 resonating with the ordinary mind, which invites the trickster. So if you can't love yourself and care for yourself enough to pay attention and to acknowledge where you're doing things that are decreasing the quality of your life and your vitality, then you are highly susceptible to tricksters, because people that are lazy rely upon other people to tell them what to do. Very dangerous at this time in the world. So now we'll get into the kind of key theme that I want to talk about as we begin the year, which is life and death. It's very important to recognize that life has to basically feed on death. You have to kill an animal to eat it. You have to kill a plant to eat it. I mean, you can pull an apple off of a tree and leave the tree and it won't die, but you are killing the apple, metaphorically. So Death is actually the food for life. But if you remember the ancient symbol of the Ouroboros, the snake that eats its tail, if the snake overconsumes that tail, it ceases to exist. And if it underconsumes, it has no sustenance, it'll starve to death. So that ancient symbol of the Ouroboros is an incredibly amazing, authentic symbol for the reality of life itself. If we overconsume the resources of the planet, we will die, we'll kill everything, and we're right there. I mean, we're right on the edge of an ecological crisis of such major proportions that it would make even a world war probably somewhat insignificant. Steiner said, life as we know it depends on two things, bees and trees. And if either of them reaches a critically low level, life will cease to exist as we need it to exist for our own survival. Well, bees are getting wiped out everywhere by pesticides, by electromagnetic pollution in particular, and the bee population is dwindling rapidly, and the tree population is at the lowest it's ever been. We're losing our trees. They're cutting down massive amounts of trees in the rainforest and all over the world for logging when we could easily grow hemp. This has been known for a long time. Hemp has amazing industrial properties. You could build buildings out of it. You can make hard things out of it, soft things out of it, clothes out of it. You can use it for medical supplies. Hemp is crazy good, but we have all these industry territorialists that have been stopping hemp from being used for these things forever. The logging industry and many other industries, the chemical industry. But we got to stop playing these games, and we got to start wising up, or we're going to profiteer ourselves to death, which is happening all the time right now. So when we look at the life process, physiologically, the process of regeneration, restoration, healing, recovery, cooling, that's called the anabolic process. The death process in a physiological system like a body is the catabolic process. The catabolic means tissue destructive. So when you work out really hard and you get sore, that's a catabolic activity, the workout, and you have to go anabolic. If you keep working out too much, that's catabolic on top of catabolic, you will injure yourself. You'll have a tendon rupture, a rotator cuff problem, an inflammatory syndrome, a ligament tear, a muscle tear, any number of things. Burn your adrenal glands out from doing that chronically. So there's always got to be a balance between the catabolic use of energy and resources and the anabolic restoration. So if we go back to the Tai Chi symbol, which is really quite mind-boggling when you figure Lao Tzu is attributed to be the man that wrote this down, he really described how the entire universe works in one symbol. I mean, it takes a very wise person to do that, and here it is. So yin, the feminine, is the black. This symbol represents two fish swimming around in a circle. And you could think of the fish in a mating dance, and if they don't produce offspring, they cease to exist. So the black fish with the white eye is yin. Yin, by definition, multiplies power. So when you go to sleep, that's a yin activity, and you multiply power. When you drink quality water, eat good food, stretch, get a massage, do breathing exercises to balance and calm your body, that multiplies power. So all the things that you can do to better take care of yourself, accumulate resources, heal the body, energize the body, and prepare it for work or creative self-expression. Once we have accumulated power, then yang, which is catabolic, yin is anabolic, spends resources. So you see my arrows pointing out. So whenever we're talking about yang, the sun shoots its energy out in all directions. there's a yin process going on inside the sun, or it wouldn't have anything to express outwardly. But if you think of the sun, it's radiating energy and heat in all directions and light, and that is its catabolic activity. So that is the death force. That sun has a shelf life based on current concepts in astronomy. The electric universe challenges that. So if you're into astronomy and astronomy, look into the electric universe. It's a very, very unique theory, system of thought with a lot of intelligent scientists, but it would give you a different perspective on whether or not the star is going to die in a certain number of years. The key thing here is if there are foods and drinks that stimulate the system. Whenever you drink alcohol, for example, every molecule of alcohol you drink takes 3 molecules of water when it leaves the body, so you can dehydrate yourself very badly with alcohol. I've seen many patients, for example, that had chronic headaches and didn't realize it was from drinking alcohol, too much alcohol, and not drinking enough water. Same thing will happen with coffee. It can be very drying. So coffee is a yang drink because it dries the body. There are herbs that are yin and herbs that are yang. Ginseng is a drying herb. So you have to be careful. For example, a woman using too much ginseng, if she's already not got enough hydration in her body and is depleted, could dry herself out and have health problems because that herb is too yang or too drying. So herbologists always know how to balance these herbs. So their male-female balance is there. So the other thing is catabolic relates to stress. Working out is stress. Falling off your bicycle is stress. Mental, emotional stress is also catabolic. Great minds and not so great minds have thought themselves right to death. Some people worry themselves to death. I'm sure you're familiar with people that are just constant worriers. So whenever you put poisonous chemicals in your body, you add a death force that's yang. It stresses the body and it causes the body to go into a stress reaction, and it can confuse the system. And I'll get more into that in a little bit. So we look at this, our health and vitality boils down to how we're balancing life, or the anabolic force, the regenerative cooling force that gathers and accumulates resources so that it has something to repair the body and then spend for our creative pursuits, our work, etc. And the death force or catabolic force is what utilizes them. So really, if I had to summarize the 5 years of training in the Chek Academy in one simple diagram, it's all about learning to balance the anabolic and the catabolic, life and death, so that you can be a healthy, vital human being and live your dreams, achieve your goals, and be a great leader for others and contribute to the world. Hello everybody. Today I'm excited to offer you a free lecture I created that can really help anyone achieve healthy balance with issues of exercise in their lives. This free lecture is titled Red, Yellow, Green Days: To Work Out or Not to Work Out. When you get to the gym and you're already feeling tired because you are low on sleep, have been working out a lot, or have just finished a taxing day at work, should you work out? Some people will re-energize from a hard bout of exercise, but others will not. But how can you tell before you start? In this free presentation, you'll learn why it is critical to evaluate your readiness for exercise, as well as simple techniques for evaluating the type of workout your body will respond best to. In this presentation, I will explore the effects of stress and exercise on the autonomic nervous system, and how crossing our stress threshold, or having high levels of stress or autonomic stress, affects different people in different ways. You will find out how to manipulate your existing programs to create energy uplifts rather than energy drains, as well as how to select exercise methods that will balance your autonomic nervous system and help you make exercise work for you and contribute to your well-being. If you want to be healthy, vital, and fit for the long run, this information is not only essential, but it is critical information seldom offered by health and exercise professionals. Those without this kind of wisdom often resort to biohacking to compensate for chronic stress, pain, illness, and injuries, which is never a good substitute for bioharmonizing. I'm excited to be able to share some of the wisdom I've developed helping thousands of people heal over my long career. To get access to my free audio lecture titled Red, Yellow, Green Days to Work Out or Not Work Out, go to chek.group/work-in. That's chek.group/work-in, all together, work in, and enjoy this free audio lecture. I think you'll find it highly informative and highly practical. It shares many of the methods I've used to help the greatest athletes in the world, weekend warriors, and just everyday people look and feel a lot better for the long run. Enjoy. When we look at what's going on in the world, as I said, we're in a very, very dangerous excess. If you read the work of Victor Schauberger, known worldwide even to this day as probably the most skilled, knowledgeable person in the field of water. There are others that are very expert out there now, such as Isabel Friend, who I've got a great podcast with and have another one coming out with her in March. My point is that Victor Schauberger, who was a genius and actually was forced at gunpoint by Hitler to build a flying saucer, which he successfully did during the Second World War. Most people don't know that, but he built one. They just couldn't control it, so they weren't able to do anything, which I suspect he set it up that way because he knew what Hitler would do with it. But Victor Schauberger was an absolute genius, and he said that whenever either of these potentials, yin or yang, reaches 96%, it will cease to exist, which disables the whole of life. So we've got to be very conscious if we dry something out too much. So a good example would be if you've got a fire burning in your fireplace, when the fire reaches 96% of the relative relationship to yin, the fire goes out. So you just have smoldering wood and then nothing. So what happens is you get what's sometimes referred to as enantiodroma. If the fire burns out, it becomes its opposite. So this is why you see the black eye in what is classically the white fish. When the fire burns out, it becomes yin. And then when the yin wood grows, it gives you something to burn and create a new fire with. So using fire as an analogy, you have to have it something for it to burn, but if it goes out, then it leaves ash. Then you have to grow something with the ash to have something to burn. So if you run out of something to burn, trees, wood, then you don't have anything to make a fire with, so you're very cold. If you have excess heat in the body, it overstimulates the body. It's often coupled with things like anxiety, elevated heart rate, high blood pressure, nervousness, anxiousness, fearful thinking. If you burn your system out, you have to go into yin, which is why we have a massive problem with hypothyroidism, because when the adrenal glands get exhausted from being pushed to stimulate the body so much and keep blood pressure up and be in a fight or flight response, then the body has to slow itself down, so the body will downregulate the thyroid. You'll go into a state of hypothyroidism, and when you do that, your body temperature drops down, often to 97 degrees or slightly less. People get very cold, very lethargic. They gain a lot of weight. They feel like crap. And so they have to go into a recovery cycle, which can take sometimes, depending on how bad it is, several months or a year or 2 years or more, depending on how completely depleted the person is. So again, what we're talking about is this necessary balance between the anabolic yin life force of regeneration and accumulating resources and spending and utilizing energy and resources. When you look at the way, for example, people eat, it's a damn miracle that their body still even works. I walk around in total amazement at how astonishingly capable the human body is of dealing with stupidity and ignorance and torture, and it still keeps going. But we're running in out of grace here because the rate of illness and disease right now is absolutely through the roof. It's just scary. I mean, as a therapist, I'm like looking at this going, wow, here I spent 40 years of my life trying to teach people how to be healthy, writing books about it, lecturing all over the world. I got on my YouTube channel, I got almost 1,000 videos for free. And it's sometimes I feel like I was never here. And there's probably many other people like Dr. Mercola and Sayer G and Zach Bush and many others that also have this feeling of, oh my Lord. But since COVID started, I've noticed that a lot more people are starting to pay attention because they met the dragon. So sometimes it takes the pain teacher to show up to trigger a little participation. The basic premise in summary is that we're at a point of our life on this planet where we have exhausted the resources of nature. And according to Jeremy Lent in his book, The Web of Meaning, where I got this 4 R's of interrelationship, which I'll describe in a second, I think the number is we are extracting 1.75 times as much as Mother Nature can produce. And we've been doing this probably since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Every farmer knows that for every unit of life you take out of the earth, you have to at least put one back in, but that won't grow you. That'll only just create a net zero. All good organic and biodynamic farmers are constantly trying to make the soils healthier and give them the ability to produce more. And if you look at how most farming is done, commercial farming, remember 94 to 96% of all the farming in the world is commercial farming, and the toxicity from that is mind-boggling. In fact, I cite this book often because it's one of the most amazing books I've studied in this regard. It's called Farmers of 40 Centuries by F.H. King. It was published in 1910, but fortunately in the last year or two, it became available on Amazon, so they must have reprinted it. But he shows you in this book, he was a professor of agricultural studies and worked for the United States government. They wanted to know how in the world can countries like China, Japan, and Korea feed so many people on so little farmable land. So he went and did a comprehensive investigation, which is detailed out. And in this book, he gives you real figures. He shows that a Chinese farmer farming organically on 1 2/3 of an acre could produce far more food than the average American farmer could produce on 40 acres. And the average American farmer in 1910 said that was barely enough to feed a family, if you can imagine that. When you see this, the actual numbers of how much farmers were producing on 1 2/3 of an acre, it'll shock you to the core. And we have got to get back to the earth, man. We got to get on this thing immediately. During the First and Second World War, when there was a lot of food starvation, 50% of the food eaten came from people's backyards because it was either that or starve. And interestingly, I've got lots of books right over there looking at the health of people. And during the war, when people were eating out of their backyards and not eating so much, the doctors had nothing to do. Disease rates of all types, largely, in general, went down radically. But as soon as the war was over and the food factory started up and people started getting back to their old bad habits, the doctors got busy again, people got sick again, they started getting obese, started getting high blood pressure, whatever it was, they started getting it again. I urge all of you to read this book because one of Bill Gates's most absolute bullshit stories is that we have to use insects and genetically modified crops to feed the people of the world. This book shows we can feed approximately 14 billion people through organic farming. Those were estimates done in 1910. I wouldn't doubt if we could go beyond that. Remember, a Chinese farmer could make more food on 1 2/3 of an acre than an American farmer could on 40 acres. We just have to get past all this corporate trickery and being hijacked by idiots that are destroying the planet. I mean, don't even get me started on all this Bill Gates stuff, because I'll just go right frickin' loopy on you. So we really have to look at the balance of life and death. I'm not a doomsday guy, but I'm a realist. And I'm saying to you all, right now, for your health, your vitality, and the life of your children, you've got to pay very close attention to where you're putting your money. And you've got to look very carefully at where you're getting your food and what they're doing to the earth and what corporations are doing to this planet. Because we can't continue to pour toxins in the ocean and spill oil in the ocean. We don't need to use oil. We've got free energy technologies that have been suppressed by the government for ages. Look at all the work of Stephen Greer. He's shown that over and over again. It's not a question of whether or not we can make the world a healthy place. It's just these corporate tricksters and bogus scientists that are not real scientists, that are just really tricksters, that are manipulating people, and we've got to all wake up before we don't have an opportunity to wake up because we're dead. Native cultures always thought 7 generations ahead. Whenever they did something, they thought about how will this affect the next 7 generations of our offspring. And they would not do things that would not at least give the next 7 generations a healthy footing, a healthy foundation. So native cultures develop what are called the 4 R's of interrelationship, which means relationship between us and nature and between people and between us and animals and us and plants, so us and nature, us and each other. The 4 R's are relationship. You must honor and respect relationships. Love and relationship always comes with responsibility. And we have a huge problem with people not taking responsibility for their actions today. We've got to stop that. We've got to start paying attention and thinking, what am I doing right now? And if everybody did what I'm about to do, would it make the world a better place? And will it support the next 7 generations? When you consider that 65% of children have diseases that normally only are experienced by elderly people, and then you say, well, where did they get their education from? Where do they get their food from? And who's the medical system that's supposed to be taking care of them? Well, it's obvious that the people that we pay with our tax dollars aren't doing a goddamn thing except ripping people off at large. I'm not saying there's not a few good ones out there, but the grand majority of you are already hip to all this. But if you're hip to it, we got to do something about it. So we have relationship, responsibility, and redistribution. Look, if you take the 30 billionaires and said how much of their money would it take to feed the world, rehabilitate the education system that they've been poisoning with pornography and all sorts of other crap, all you got to do is look into the history of the Rockefeller Foundation. If you want a great book that goes into some of the trickery, read Pirates of the DNA, The Sacred Spiral by Leonard Horowitz, and he outlines it quite nicely in there. These guys have enough money to rehabilitate the earth, clean the waters, develop free energy. They could easily make the world a healthy, beautiful place for the next 7 generations. But do they? Hell no. Be careful who you vote for. I don't care what country you're in, because we don't have governments anymore. We have corporate headquarters, and these corporations are so power-driven and so money-driven that they will literally destroy your life for more money. And people are highly profitable when they're sick. You have to really carefully start thinking about how we're going to get through 2024 if we keep doing this stuff. Because we're not only doing it to ourselves, we're doing it to the environment. This is what I call the echo: energy, chemistry, hydration, and organisms. Whatever kind of energy you produce, you put 5G towers all over there, you kill trees, you kill nature, you destroy kids, you have higher rates of diseases. There's lawsuits all over the world because of the scientific proof of that right now. There's energy. You use the wrong kind of energy in the environment. When the environment can't take it, you destroy the environment. Chemistry. Look at the toxicity on the planet, right? We've got more problems with toxicity than ever. A report in Children's Health Defense showed recently, within a few months, I read it, 129 chemicals found in the average newborn infant that are toxic, dangerous chemicals. So here's a great book for you, Natural Detoxification by Jacqueline Crone, MD, and Frances Taylor, MA, a practical encyclopedia, the complete guide to clearing your body of toxins. Highly recommend that. And since we're talking about this stuff, this is a book that was written about 1980, but it shows you exactly how the food corporations have been ripping you off, poisoning you, and devitalizing your food, so it has almost no nutrition in it for a very long time. Paul A. Stitt was a biochemist. He worked for Quaker Oats. When you see some of the things that he found out working for Quaker Oats in here, it'll give you quite a wake up. So, Beating the Food Giants by Paul A. Stitt. Another one written by another lady with the last name Stitt. I haven't had a chance to figure out if they're related. It was recommended by Zen Honeycutt, and I've actually read this book in the past. It's called Food and Behavior by Barbara Reed Stitt. That's ReedStitt. Food and Behavior. And when you look at the studies that have been done on prisoners and in schools, how just adding some B vitamins or just these minor little additions radically changes behavior, decreases illnesses, all sorts of things. There's plenty of research looking into this. Another interesting factor is that research shows that during the First World War, 49% of recruits in the United States and in England were too nutritionally deficient or too sick to be active duty soldiers and had to get turned away. And then by the Second World War, in England and the United States, it was 50 to 51%. And so the British government considered this to be, obviously, a national emergency. So they put Major General Robert McCarrison in charge of doing research to figure out why the health of the British population and young people was so bad. So he researched the British diet, but they also asked him to find the healthiest people in the world and make a diet plan from their influence. And so he found that the people of the Hunza people in northern India were the healthiest people in the world. They had men that were 110 years of age, still, getting women pregnant and being a father and working in the fields and smoking cigarettes and had no diseases from it, drinking alcohol wisely, but regularly and wisely, things like that. And they were super, super healthy, super, super smart people. So he did rat studies, and he put one group of them on the English diet and the other one on the Hunza diet. And he showed that by the 16th day of the study, the rats on the English diet had to be separated because they were so violent. They were killing each other. They had to put them in individual cages. They had high rates of miscarriage. And when he analyzed the rats with autopsies when they died and calculated the data, he showed that the rats died from exactly the same diseases that were common amongst the British population and in the same proportions. And the Hunzas hardly ever had any death. There was no infant deaths. There was hardly ever any problems in child raising. They were healthy, strong. Their coats were slick and healthy, and they lived a full and healthy life. So there's just one example. Then you've got Pottinger's cats. You can look at Pottinger's cats. It looks at what happens when Pottinger took 900 cats and fed some of them cooked food and pasteurized milk, and the other ones he fed raw meat and raw milk. And by the third generation of eating, now this is only cooked meat. Remember, this study was done in the late 30s, early 40s, if I remember right. a while ago. Point is, the food wasn't nearly as toxic back then. There wasn't near as much pesticide use, herbicide, fungicide, rodenticide. They didn't have glyphosate. So even commercial food would have been, much more nutritious than anything you're getting today. But by the time these cats were in the third generation of eating processed foods, they had very high rates of abortion. They lost their athletic abilities. They lost their sexual preference. He showed that the males had sex with males and the females had sex with females, and they lost their sexual orientation. He showed that if you threw a cat in the air, it would just fall on its head. Most of us know you can throw a cat up and even spin it, it'll always land on its feet. They had tremendous problems with diseases. They had arthritic problems, joint problems, and various malformations. And then when he put them back on their natural diet of raw milk and raw meat, it took 4 generations to rehabilitate the cats back to normal. Now, consider that we've been eating processed foods quite heavily, probably since the First World War. It depends on how you want to start that. Even if we say the Second World War, I think the Second World War ended in 1945. Here we are almost 80 years later. So if you think how many generations that is, if you say most people have kids in their 20s, we're right in the 4th generation. And look at what we're seeing in society. We're seeing high levels of violence. We're seeing gender identity confusion. We're seeing high rates of disease. Zen Honeycutt said in her interview with Del Bigtree that current rates of discharge in the military, in other words, not being accepted into the military due to malnutrition, obesity, and disease, is 75%. Only 25% of recruits are able to be taken in because the rest of them are too far gone. So we went from the Second World War the First World War 49%, Second World War 51%, and here we are in the Third World War, and 75% of the young men that should be the healthiest men in our nations are getting rejected due to diseases and malnutrition. Well, that's not good. If you want to learn more about the history of food processing, and how they've been jerking you over and ruining your food, here's 2 excellent books. Revolution at the Table, The Transformation of the American Diet by Harvey Levenstein. And the second book is Paradox of Plenty, A Social History of Eating in Modern America by Harvey Levenstein. When you read these books, you will be shocked at what you read. And if you're not shocked, you're already friggin' dead.
Hi, everybody. I know that you're all aware of the importance of vitamin C. There is a mountain of research on it, but not all C is created equally. I love Paleo Valley's Essential C Complex because it is the real deal, bioavailable, and I wanted you to hear right from Autumn Smith, founder of Paleo Valley, why their Essential C Complex is so unique and something you definitely want for your family and your children. Autumn, tell us about your Essential C Complex.
Well, I was shocked to learn as a holistic nutritionist that over 90% of the vitamin C on the market is derived from genetically modified corn, and then it's processed with highly volatile acids. And so I knew I had to find a better way to get all of the powerful benefits of vitamin C. So what I did was I dove into the research and I found the 3 most vitamin C rich superfoods on the planet. That's unripe acerola cherry and camu camu and amla berry. And then I just packed them into capsules. And the benefits are amazing because you're not only getting vitamin C, but all of the other wonderful benefits that come from these amazing superfoods.
To try Paleo Valley's Essential C Complex and save 15% on your purchase, go to paleovalley.com/CHEK15. That's PALEOVALLEY.com/CHEK15. No promo code is required. Enjoy.
Now, we have got a lot of problems with neurological diseases, with almost every kind of organ and gland pathology you can think. And when you start looking at what's being put in food, it's being loaded up with excitotoxins. In this book by Russell L. Blaylock, if you look for podcasts with Russell Blaylock, he's a very good guy to hear on a podcast. In fact, there's a podcast called, I think it's called Fireside Chats. He was on recently, and it's an excellent podcast, but his book, Excitotoxins, The Taste That Kills, is all about MSG, aspartame, and other chemicals in food that are neurotoxic. And he explains in here, and I've seen many videos recently of people saying aspartame's fine, it doesn't matter, it won't hurt you, it's a bunch of bullshit. That's absolute stupidity. This book will educate you very well, and I'll tell you what, if you're a parent, this is the kind of book you need to study. And since we're on the food topic a little bit here, here's a book called The Consumer's Dictionary of Food Additives. I recommend everyone have one. The problem is now they pass laws so you hardly know what's in the food because they've got labeling laws so they can hide it. If it says natural, that means they can hide it. If it says grass, generally regarded as safe, there's a ton of stuff they hide. But I've looked into these things, and when you see what's on the generally regarded as safe list and start looking them up in a food additives dictionary and look at the side effects of this stuff, it'll blow your mind. So you got to get back to organic food and simple eating like I show in my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, or you're not going to have the agency to live your dreams and achieve your goals. And we've got huge problems with sexual impotence in men and women that can't get pregnant. In vitro fertilization is a booming business. But anybody that's got to use in vitro fertilization instead of getting healthy is making a huge mistake because you go against the principles of nature. If you can't get pregnant, it means that you're not fit to be parents and that your body's not healthy enough and you're putting yourself at great risk of having a malformed child. How many people, raise your hand if you want a child with a disease or a malformation, and if you have any empathy and compassion for the souls coming in, you don't want to give them a body like that. We've got to learn to take care of ourselves and take the responsibilities of love and the commitments of love to take care of ourselves and each other. The Safe Shopper's Bible, A Consumer's Guide to Non-Toxic Household Products, Cosmetics, and Food by David Steinman and Samuel Epstein, MD. The amount of women that poison themselves with cosmetics and the amount of men and women that poison themselves with underarm deodorants, body care products, toothpaste, makeup. This is one of the reasons I wrote my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, because I saw this shit going on in patients all the time, coming to me with tears in their eyes because they had severe headaches that wouldn't go away. They had neurological pathologies that nobody could figure out. They got colons that won't work. I meant to bring this book out, and I knew there was a book I was forgetting, but if you want to have your mind blown right the hell out of your skull, get the book called Clinical Ecology by Lawrence Dickey, MD. It was written in 1972. I spent 6 months carrying that book everywhere. It is about 800 pages or so, 600 or 800 pages of scientific research showing what happens to people when they have bad reactions to food, such as food intolerance and food allergy. And it shows that almost every single thing people are seen for in a hospital can be caused by reactions to food and food poisoning, food toxicity, etc. And when Lawrence Dickey tried to publish the book, the American Medical Association threatened to take his license from him and tried to stop the book from being published because they did not want people to know how much illness and disease is caused by food. Now, that book was written in 1972, and things are 1,000 times worse. If Lawrence Dickey was alive today, he'd shit himself seeing what's going on. I'm telling you this because this is 2024. It's an 8-year. It's a year for self-reflection. You notice I have a little s and a big S. Little s is the self, means the wholeness of the individual, little self. Big self means that which sustains you. We are all sustained. Our big self is the world. It is the sun. It is the cosmos. But at the more practical level, it's the world. We cannot be healthier than the earth. We cannot be healthier than the water. We can't have Bill Gates and others filling our skies with aluminum and barium and all sorts of other shit based on a bogus lie that just makes rich people richer and keeps stupid people stupid. I mean, you don't need to be a genius to ask yourself, geez, what's going to happen if we just fill our skies with toxic heavy metals that we're all breathing and our kids are living in, and then filling the oceans full of this stuff? I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, I don't even have words for that level of stupidity. This is not stupidity. This is criminal activity. This is trickster activity. That's why it's interesting that 8 is associated with the average mind and the trickster. Only average people are easily tricked by that. The old saying says, it's easy to fool people, but very hard to convince them that they've been fooled. And that's something that we all need to wake up to. Because I've had a long career of patients that were easily fooled. And even when I gave them the best advice, they had such a hard time just doing what I was teaching them to do because they get addicted and fixed in their old patterns. And today is not a good day to be rigid in old patterns and old beliefs and belief systems that get people killed for obvious reasons. My goodness. So moving to sort of like practical applications. This is a kind of a sample of what you'll get in my online How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy course, or in the book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. My 1, 2, 3, 4 system: 1, love; 2, forces; 3, choices; 4, doctors. 1, love means what do you love enough to live for? You know you've got a dream when you're willing to not only live for it, but die for it. Your dream is your life. What is it you want to become in your life? What is it you want to share with people? What is it you want to inspire people with? What is it you want to do that's an example to your children and to the people of the world? What is it that you want to leave as a legacy? Psychologist Jerry Wesh says, if you have a big enough dream, you don't need a crisis. So we have to ask ourselves, what would we rather do than be in pain all the time? What do we live for? What are the values that we are willing to live for because they're life affirmative and willing to protect with our lives because without them our children are dead? It's time now to get clear on that. So 1, love equals your dream and the goals you set to achieve it. Science of goal setting says don't set a goal that's more than 50% greater than what you've achieved previously, because the research in goal setting shows the chances of achieving it go down. So if last year you only made $35,000 or $50,000, setting a goal to make $1 million this year is unrealistic. So you would say, what's 50% more than what I made last year, and work for that. And if you make that in 3 months, say hallelujah, then set it again and you might make $1 million, but you'll be realistic by setting a goal that's no more than 50% of what you achieved. Especially with athletics. I mean, if your best deadlift was 315 pounds and you set a goal for 1 year to deadlift 700 pounds, you're being completely unrealistic unless you're going to use some very, very powerful drugs and replace your bones with titanium. So we have to be conscious. We have to be big dreamers, but realistic dreamers, and set realistically achievable goals. And we have to balance these two forces, the male and the female, the catabolic, the death force. We have to kill stuff to eat it. We have to cut trees down to make room for a schoolyard. We have to crack some eggs to have an omelet. But if we kill more than we regenerate, we kill ourselves. If we have relationship, responsibility, redistribution, and reciprocity, redistribution means we got to share what we have beyond our personal needs with those that need it. And reciprocity means we got to share. Redistribution means we have to take things in one place and move them to where they're needed. So if someone doesn't have certain minerals in their soil over there, like New Zealand has mineral deficiencies, the whole world's got practically a magnesium deficiency, then we need to redistribute. We got to take the minerals from where they're at and distribute them to where they're needed. And reciprocity means giving and taking. Love is a boomerang. It's a process of giving and taking. So we have to be conscious of the 4 R's and the balance of life and death at every level. Every single cell in our body depends upon this anabolic catabolic balance. And every cell of humanity, be it a family or a society or a nation or a culture, depends on this balance. If you look at this from a banking perspective, if you look at this from a resource perspective, if you look at this from a food perspective, if you look at this from almost any perspective, you'll see that these are underlying principles that govern how nature works. This is called reality, something people are out of touch with. Choices. We always have to consider, by the way, the I, the we, and the all. That's how consciousness evolves. That's how love evolves. First, you got to take care of yourself. A child is dependent upon its parents. It's I-centric. It needs someone to feed it, clothe it, wipe its bottom. It has to be fed, cleaned, nurtured, and protected. Every cell in your body has to be fed, cleaned, nurtured, and protected. Your children at large have to be fed, clean, nurtured, and protected. I was raised on a farm. Animals have to be fed, clean, nurtured, and protected. Nature has to be fed, clean, nurtured, and protected. Humanity as a whole has to be fed, clean, nurtured, and protected. We're not doing a good job at feeding. We're not doing a good job at cleaning. We're not doing a good job of nurturing. And when we're letting kids make adult decisions as young as 2 years of age, and my God, I won't go any further into that one, but it blows my mind. And we're not protecting the natural resources that keep us alive. Our militaries are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, or what's been going on in the last 3 years would have never been happening. Ever. I was a paratrooper in the 82nd Airborne Division. I'm watching this shit going down. Where's the soldiers? And where's the police? We are not protecting. We have got problems that require people to take responsibility for their I, love themselves, care for themselves, eat real food, have 4 doctors, make something out of yourself, get clear on what your values are, and go out into the world and get people to harmonize with you to do things that matter. What matters is taking care of each other and the planet, because no one's going to do it for us, obviously. Okay, so we have to think of the I level. We is me and any other. So you can't give in a relationship what you don't have. And if you don't take care of yourself, you become a codependent. You become a child in a relationship, a drainer. So once we take care of ourselves and make good choices for ourselves that we can share in relationships, then we're prepared to help the world. Everything you do for yourself makes a change in the world, because the world's full of people. A culture is a bunch of people doing the same things. That's the problem. We're doing the wrong things in general, or we wouldn't be having this discussion. So a husband and a wife, 2 co-workers working together, contribute to the all. All in this model is 3 or more people. So take care of yourself so you can contribute to relationships, and then anything you do that's emulated by the all becomes a positive change in the world. That's why I said, whatever you're doing, ask yourself, if everyone in the world did what I'm about to do right now, would the world be a better place? Oh, I'm just going to steal a little bit. Well, a little bit times 8 billion is a lot. Just really be honest with yourself, okay? So Dr. Happiness is the doctor that has to decide what is happy making that you're willing to do, so you're not dependent on external means such as drugs and other people to make you happy. If you're dancing and singing with other people, that's cool. But if you're taking shortcuts to be happy and tricking yourself with chemicals and just being lost in video games and movies that are brainwashing you to be trapped by all this stuff, then you're not really happy making. Singing, dancing, artistic expression, being in nature, exercising, playing sports, things that are genuine and sustainable and don't cost a lot of money are the kinds of things I'm talking about, because then you know how to be happy. Right? It's a very important thing. I know how to make myself happy. I'm doing it right now. I love sharing with people. I love supporting people. I love helping other people live more, love more, and achieve more and feel good about themselves and good about their life. That's why I do this. I think most people are genuinely happy when they're helping other people. And we've gotten so caught in our little shell of ego that we have forgotten. I mean, people hardly even take time to parent their children. Listen to the books or read the books by Leonard A. Sachs, MD, on the lost boys and the problems with young girls. It's shocking. And one of the things that comes up over and over is people just aren't parenting anymore. They're babysitting people with games and televisions and drugs. It's bad news. This is Pottinger's Cats relived. It's exactly why the British government sent Robert McCarrison out to India to do research on the Hunzas. And there's tons of studies like that. Remember, I've been doing this for 40 years. I've read a lot of books and studied with a lot of experts all over the world. And there's a lot of people listening right now that have been in my library that can back it. And these books are well studied. And I've got hundreds and hundreds of books and notes to back it. And the problem is the more educated you get, the more you look at this and going, my God, there's no need to look for hell. You're in it, but it's up to us to create heaven. If you're in hell, there's only one way out, and that's up. And we got to do this together. And that's why 8 is about manifestation and using your mind effectively and looking into yourself. As above, so below. Get your dream right. Get your head right. And get 4 doctors and get busy. And if you need help, do my online How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy training, and you will get help. And I can tell you, these principles and practices work. I'm a 62-year-old man, and I'm still fit and strong. I go out with young guys and still put the hammer to them. And they're looking at me like, well, how the hell is this happening? They all think I'm doing drugs. I'm like, are you a fool? I don't even look like a steroid user. I don't use any testosterone replacement, any of that shit. I see all this crap going on. Like, this is the complete breakdown of the male species. All this, oh, I need TRT. It's like, give me a break. Grow some common sense, do some real exercise, eat some real fucking food, and quit acting like a goddamn biohacking moron. Excuse me for being so direct, but I'm being honest.
Hello, everybody. I sure hope you're enjoying this amazing podcast. I sure am. Did you know that Bioptimizer's Microbiome Breakthrough is my daily probiotic of choice? According to research, approximately 90% of people worldwide suffer from leaky gut syndrome. This means that undigested food particles are leaking through the lining of your small intestine, overloading your liver, and putting a chronic load on your immune system. As I show in my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, this is the most common reason that more people today are suffering from debilitating food intolerances than ever before. Microbiome Breakthrough not only gives you a daily dose of essential probiotics to keep your microbiome healthy, it is designed to support healing the wall of your small intestine so your liver and immune system can rest and you can digest your food effectively. Not only is this one of my all-time favorite products, it tastes great and is easy to use. To get started on Microbiome Breakthrough now and get 10% off as a Living 4D listener, go to bit.ly/microbiome Paul 10. That's bit.ly/microbiome Paul 10. Enjoy your healthy gut.
As we begin the year, it's a good idea to get clear on what's happy making for you. What are your values? What is your values for happy making? What is your values for food? What is your values for rest? What is your values on moving your body? These are critical things. Most people don't even think about these things. You know, I've seen thousands of patients, and I don't think I can count 2 of them that could tell me what their dream for themselves and what their values was. Maybe some dreams, but not values. Most people, they don't know their values until someone challenges on them, but they're not conscious about it. You got to be conscious. Remember, your yes has no value till you learn to say no. Without values, you can't say no. Okay? So we've got to look carefully at our thinking, as I've been saying. And we got to be clear on who our people are, who our tribe is. I interviewed Jonathan Bluestein, who's a very smart guy, a martial artist expert, ex-soldier. And when we were talking about what was going on with COVID, I said, what do you think people should do? He said, number one, gong fu. Develop mastery at something. Until you've mastered something, you won't know how to master anything. And once you master something, you're more efficient at mastering anything else you want to do. Two, sovereignty. Stand up for your rights as a human being. Stand up for your rights as an American or whatever your rights are in the country that you're in. And if you don't have rights and freedoms, then get the hell out of that country. And three, get together with people that share your values. Work together. That was very good advice from Jonathan Bluestein. Okay, and it's advice for now. So when you're coming into your new year, it's a good idea to write a must-have, must-not-have list. What are the things that I must have, at least with creating happiness, at least with movement, at least with diet, and at least with rest? What are the things I must not have? You can extend that to finances. You can extend it to intimate partnerships. You can extend it to family relationships and social relationships. You can extend it to medical procedures. You can extend it to wherever it's relevant in your life. Doctor movement. We have to have enough movement to have baseline health. We must be energized enough and fit enough to meet the responsibilities of love for ourselves, for our families, for our friends, and to live our dream. We have a tremendous problem with a lack of exercise. Michael Mogadon, Masters in Public Health, did research probably 15 years ago, and it's worse now, showed that only 8% of men and 3% of women did any regularly scheduled exercise, including walking a dog. So when you're out driving around on the weekend, it looks like you see a bunch of people riding bikes, playing tennis, and playing golf. That's everybody. That's it. You're seeing almost everybody out there. This is seriously bad news. I mean, this is not hard to do. Just go for a walk. At least an hour a day of walking, I think, is a really good dose. Most people, if you get too tired, take a day off. Go swimming. Do something different. But participate. Then we have the Chek success formula, which I developed many, many years ago for a lot of reasons. But the first step to getting yourself fit is getting your body flexible. In my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, I give you 20 stretch tests on the most important muscles to test for technical reasons that are explained in the book, and how to balance your body with stretching. At minimum, join a yoga class or do yoga online. Do what you got to do. Okay? So first we restore flexibility and stability, which means you have to use the right types of exercises to get your body stable and get your posture right. Show you right how to do that in my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, and on my online training program. Then we need to develop strength so that we have the strength to handle our body weight, do the things we got to do for activities of daily living, and meet the requirements of our dream. And only then should we be developing power. But when you go to the gym, you see people doing power training that haven't done any of this other stuff, and that's why so many people get hurt in the gyms and in programs like CrossFit and a lot of these functional exercise programs and high-speed, cool, fancy stuff when they're not ready to even do the basics yet. So we got to have some common sense about it. Remember, we want to train, not drain. This whole no pain, no gain attitude, it's never been effective. It's ruined a lot of athletes. I'm a guy that can tell you that. Train. Push yourself, but discern between the discomfort of training and traumatizing yourself. Most people don't need to push themselves into pain, just discomfort. Just make yourself therapeutically uncomfortable with some exercise at least 3 days a week, and do some light days between, and flip-flop activities so you're not using the same muscle groups all the time. So one day you can do, some weightlifting. The next day you can do a little cardio training. The next day you can go swimming or something like that. Just mix it up so your body is getting new, fresh activities so it doesn't adapt too quickly. And you don't have to push yourself that hard. You just got to participate. Remember, train movements, not muscles. Bodybuilding is fine if you're going to be a competitive bodybuilder, but it does not improve functional performance. There's tons of research on this. I've talked about it on podcasts. I talked about it with Victor and Daniel in my podcast, Gyms of the Future. If you haven't listened to that, you can listen to that. I get into all that. There's 7 primal movement patterns. I identified that in 1988. Squatting, lunging, bending, pushing, pulling, twisting, and gait, which is walking, jogging, and sprinting. If you can't jog or sprint, you can walk. But you've got to be able to do those patterns, squat, lunge, bend, push, pull, twist, while standing on your own 2 feet. Throwing a ball is a lunge with a twist and a push. So there's 3 patterns coupled together by the nervous system for one functional activity. You can look at my book titled Movement That Matters. I show you right how to do that. I also have that information right here in How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. Key things, if you're going to go exercise, do things that include those 7 patterns. I have a rule: if you can't, you must. If you can't squat, you must, because you're going to get hurt. You can't squat. What are you going to do when you got to poop? What are you going to do when you got to get in and out of a car? Getting in and out of a car is a single-legged squat with a lateral shift and a twist. If you can't squat because you say it hurts, then you better get help, or you're going to end up being a codependent, a statistic, and on a bunch of drugs, and your life will get miserable, all because you didn't go see a Chek trained professional or a skilled personal trainer or someone that can just teach you how to take care of yourself. This is not a time to be passive or be lazy with yourself, because the cost is high. Listen to your body. Your body never lies. If you're too tired to do the workout you wanted to do, go lighter. If going lighter seems hard, work in. I show you how to work in my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. It's simple, it feels good, clears your head, energizes your body, and it's magnificent. So go work out one day, work in the next day, if that is a good way to balance yourself. But it's really just common sense. Doctor diet, we have to be clear about the food quality we're eating, and we got to be clear about what our dollars spent on food is doing to the world. Remember, 94 to 96% of all the food grown in the world and eaten in the world is non-organic, which means it's poisoning the entire environment. Energy, chemistry, hydration, and organism. Whatever you do to the environment, it does it to you. You live in the environment. You are the environment. You turn over every single cell in your body on a yearly basis. You turn your 2 million blood cells die every minute. You got to replace them. You turn over your skin cells, the epidermis, every 3 days. Your bones about every 6 weeks, if I remember right. You literally are what you eat, but you also are what you don't excrete, which is exactly why I mentioned the importance of detoxification. This book, Natural Detoxification, a Practical Encyclopedia by Jacqueline Crone and Francis Taylor, is one of many great books. Here's what you got to remember. Whenever you have toxins in your body that you don't have the nutrition to support the liver in detoxifying, it shuttles the toxins into fat, and it'll keep making more and more fat to protect your brain, your glands, and your organs from the toxins in your body. So a lot of the obesity we have today is not because people are eating too much food. It's because their bodies are so toxic. The fat is being used to insulate their survival systems, glands and organs and brain, from the toxins so they don't die. So what do? They put them on starvation diets in hospitals, 900-calorie diets, 1,000-calorie diets, seen it happen over and over again, force them to burn the toxins. Next thing you know, they're sick, they got liver sclerosis, they got diseases because people are not thinking clearly. So it takes good nutrition to provide your detoxification systems with the resources they need. And I've got Chek trained professionals all over the world that can help you do this. We've got osteopaths, we've got naturopaths, we've got chiropractors that a lot of them are grounded in natural principles. There's a lot of shitty ones, but that's the same with every profession. But if you read good books and listen to people like Zen Honeycutt and Moms Across America, and you listen to subscribe to Green Med Info, Sayer G's newsletter, it's fantastic. Children's Health Defense, it's fantastic. The Price Pottinger Association, loaded with great information. The Weston A. Price Association, I mean, there's mountains of great stuff out there. People are just too busy staring at television screens and video games and the shitty news hour to take care of themselves. I mean, most people listening to my podcast are not in that category, so forgive me, I'm not bitching at you guys. I'm just saying, we have the resources, we have the technology. Question is, what do you enjoy more? Feeling like shit all the time and being dependent on drugs? Or do you want to live your dream, play with your kids, have good sex, run, jump, play, paint, party, and have fun? I call it the latter myself. Quantity, how much do you need? How much food from plant foods versus animal foods is ideal for you? Pay attention, your body will tell you. If you're doing it right, you'll feel good. In my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, I give you a whole chapter showing you exactly how to test yourself so you identify what the ideal starting ratio is and what the symptoms of balanced diet are, what the symptoms of too much carbohydrate are, what the symptoms of too much fat and protein are, so you can fine tune, no problem. Dr. Quiet, I highly recommend if you don't have a grounding mat, you get a grounding mat, just go on Amazon.com, search grounding mat. It'll ground you to the earth and help bleed the electromagnetic pollution. If you're not getting at least 8 hours of sleep at night, you should do it to see if you feel better. And if you do, then it means you need 8 hours of sleep. There's lots of people out there that say you don't need 8 hours of sleep, but I say, prove it to me. I've had lots of people tell me that as patients. They'll bring research to me and say, oh, you don't need 8 hours of sleep. That's old news. Science says. And I say, yeah, good. Then how come your adrenals are burned out? How come you got headaches? And how come you feel crappy? And why are you spending all this money when you should try the cheapest medicine there is that's been used for as long as human beings been alive? Medicine number one, get some sleep. Okay, my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, has a whole chapter in there on all the things you need to know called sleep hygiene, how to set your bedroom up, soundproof, light, electromagnetic problems. Again, it's all addressed in there. But a grounding mat is very good because it bleeds electrical pollution out of your body. Also, biogeometry. We sell biogeometry technologies through the Chek Institute website. The home kit's only about $250. It'll change your life. They got pendants to help balance all the organs. Listen to my podcast with Ibrahim Kareem or Doria Kareem. There's 3 of them. One with Ibrahim and Doria, one with Doria answering a lot of questions and more. And then the third one, my 200th episode with Ibrahim Kareem, is another one. All excellent. Highly recommend biogeometry technology. It's amazing stuff. Get the stimulants out of your food and be careful not to use any stimulating foods like coffee, tea, processed sugar within about 3 to 4 hours. I'd recommend 4 hours before bed. White sugar is a drug. It's highly stimulating to the body, highly acidic to the body. It'll disrupt your sleep cycle. So be careful when you're proportioning foods not to get your sugars up too high, too close to bed, and don't eat too much food before bed. I recommend eating a smaller meal at night and eating a minimum of 2 hours before bed, because if you eat too much food before bed and you eat anything that stimulates you, you cannot drop into a deep restorative sleep, and you'll wake up tired, you'll have bags under your eyes, a foggy head, you'll feel lethargic and dull, and you'll probably resort to lots of coffee, sugar, and drugs to pick yourself back up, and you'll just drive yourself into the dirt and get yourself a real bad fungal or parasite infection, both of which are so common it's scary. 90% of the world population, based on research, has a fungal infection. 90% of the world population has a parasite infection, which Mother Nature has deemed you unfit to be above ground. So once you get a fungal or parasite infection, you're being told by Mother Nature, you got to be put back into the earth. Those organisms break you down. So if you want help, look at my online training program, Healing Fungal and Parasite Infections, the Absolute Essentials. And I show you exactly what to do to balance yourself out and get yourself healthy in there. You got to go to bed with the sun. If you want the best sleep, you got to go down with the sun and up with the sun. So in bed by 10 o'clock to 10:30 at the latest. Rising with the sun is our whole hormonal system is driven by the sun cycle and the moon cycle. I explain all that in my sleep chapter. If you're in shift work, you got to be careful because it can burn you out. I've had piles of shift workers all burn out, neurological problems, health problems, and I've had to get them off shift work or they won't get healthy. I've even seen cancer cases that wouldn't heal till they stopped doing shift work. And we got to take some time for self-reflection. Remember, 8 is the year of self-reflection. So each day before I go to bed, I sit quietly or lay in my bed and I review my day. I look at all the relationships, how I manage myself. Did I accomplish my goals for the day? Did I treat people with love and respect? Did I cop out? Was I lazy? Did I give up on my values, on my diet, or all these things, and ask myself, where can I do better tomorrow? And I commit myself to doing a little better. Remember, if you just improve 1% a day on any one of these 4 doctors, in 100 days, you'll be 100% better. But most people degenerate 1 to 3% a day. And every 100 days, some part of them stops working or needs a drug or needs a surgery. So, look, I don't think I need to tell you, we're in a situation where it's all hands on deck right now. We got to get wise. We got to get our common sense back. We got to get the politicians and the crooks out of government, out of medicine, out of education. We got cleanup work to do, man. But we can do it and enjoy it. Just a little bit from each of us. Hey, think about it. I've used this analogy before. If 8 billion people in the world flushed the toilet 1 less time a day, that's 3 to 5 gallons of flush. 8 billion times 3 gallons is 24 billion gallons of water we could save by just not flushing 1 time. And that would bring water to people that are living without water all over the world. So it doesn't have to be hard. We have got to get our shit together, and this is a good year to do it. It's a great year for self-reflection. It's a great year for focused manifestation, and it's a great year not to be an average person, because the trickster archetype is alive in the number 8 with regard to the number field 8. And strength is the tarot archetype, which means listen to your heart. Use your heart to feel what you know and be honest with yourself. The last person you want to bullshit is yourself. Because if you bullshit yourself, then you never know when you're lying to anybody else, and it gets to be a habit, and then your life just starts to fall down around you, and then it's poor me syndrome, okay? So I'm optimistic. I think if we apply this personally and in our families, and we read the resources, and we support moms across America, we subscribe to the Price Pottinger Foundation, the Weston A. Price Foundation, Green Med Info, Children's Health Defense. We support Robert F. Kennedy. He will clean up the environment. He will clean the shit out of the government, and he will bring us back in the United States into a healthy, moral relationship with other countries. We really have a lot of great possibilities. The question is, most drug addicts have to hit bottom before they start taking care of themselves and being proactive. My question for all of you as I close the podcast is, have we hit bottom yet? And if we haven't, do we have the luxury of waiting to hit bottom with all the things that are already hitting bottom around us? I hope that's clear. Do we want to wait for nature to collapse? Do we want the sex organs of the planet to stop working so we all starve to death together? We need to stand up, rise up, hold hands, circle the globe. We got to protect nature. We got to protect our sovereignty and our rights. And we got to get the criminals to stop lying and cheating and ruining our lives with all their crap. I'll tell you, my dream this year is to help as many people as I can, to love as much as I can, to live as fully as I can, to support my children in becoming the best that they can be, and to enjoying myself while contributing to the world as much as I can, to paint as much as I can, exercise my creativity, and get my new Spirit Gym program out to the world, which is, I've been working on it for almost 4 years now, and I've put my heart and soul into it. It's my magnum opus. It's a 15-volume set of books, online membership, and mentoring program, and it's designed to really teach you how to be your best and have a real honest spiritual relationship with yourself and with Great Spirit and the world and the whole cosmos. So Thanks for joining me today. I hope you found this information useful. I really do my best to love and support all of you. And I know if you're listening this far, then you're interested in sharing love and educating yourself. Thank you to all my amazing sponsors. They only make the best products you can imagine. I only work with the best people, and it's hard to find sponsors that fit my values. So thank you to my sponsors for your amazing products. Every time you buy something from the sponsors, a little commission goes to me to help me support the podcast and my family. So I thank you. And it supports the sponsors, and they're all doing amazing things for the world by helping us have real food and real products that work. So I look forward to sharing something exciting with you next week, every Tuesday, something new and exciting. And I'm with you all the way, come hell or high water in 2024. Lots of love. Oh.
Thank you for listening to Living 4D with Paul Chek. To find out more about the Eat, Move and Be Healthy coaching program, which will be released this month, and the special program launch offer, visit chek.group/L4D-EMBH. That's chek.group/L4D-EMBH. For more information on the other resources mentioned in this episode, you can read the show notes at chekinstitute.com/podcast. For more solo cast episodes with Paul, try episodes 18, 20, 22, 24, and 26, featuring the Evolve series, where Paul talks about how to evolve yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and how to evolve your career. Or check out episode 59 with Paul on ancient wisdom and reimagining your health and performance. In episode 151, Paul talks about the people who changed his life. And in episode 164, Paul discusses how to create real health. Episode 241 is a Q&A episode where Paul answers questions sent in by listeners, and in episode 267, Paul ponders the question, are you spent? You can find Paul on Instagram and TikTok at paul.chek, on X at paulchek, or on his YouTube podcast channel, youtube.com/living4D with Paul Chek. Watch more on Paul's blog at paulcheksblog.com, or visit the Chek Institute site at chekinstitute.com to find Paul's e-learning courses, advanced training programs, and to learn more about the Chek Academy. This podcast would not be possible without the support of our premier sponsors, Bioptimizers, Organifi, and Paleo Valley, and our podcast sponsor, Wild Pastures. Please show your appreciation by taking advantage of their special discounts for listeners. The links are in the show notes. And finally, if you enjoyed today's episode, please consider leaving us a 5-star rating and a warm review on the podcast platform of your choice. This podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, Google Podcast, and YouTube.